So let's start with the workshop. What we have done last time, we have done till the fifth module, and now we'll be doing with the last module, and then if the time permits, then we'll go forward with the drawing. Yeah, Uwais has a question. Yeah, Uwais, go on.
सर वो आप एक और बार वो WMP और EGD का समझा सकते हैं क्या कि वो एग्जाम का फॉर्मेट कैसा रहेगा वो असिस्मेटिव एग्जाम का? सर वो आखिरी बार आपने जो बोला था ना तो वो उसका आवाज आपको क्लियर नहीं आया था.
Yes, no
सॉरी
issue.
सर.
No issues. So at the last, I'll just explain everything. Okay. Chalo. Wes, just lower your hand. At the last, I'll just explain each and everything. Okay. Sure. So today we'll be doing with the module 6, which is the electrical and electronics. So in this um, module, we will be dealing with the contents what is already been aware of. You people are aware of it, but a slight we'll just have a recapitulation that whatever the things you are knowing. Let's see to what extent we can just gather the information more. So this is the slide what you are having. Are you able to see the slide, everyone? Yeah, okay, fine. So let's start with the session. In this particular part, in this module, we'll be dealing with the two lectures. One is module 6.1 and then other is the 6.2. And the 6.1 part, what we are having is basically the electrical part. So the electrical part here, we'll be talking about something related to the wiring, related to the connections, how the wiring connections are being done. And at the same time, we'll talk also about the components, different components, what we are using in the case of the electrical systems. Even we'll see few methods as well. So just have a look how it is being going with. So the first is we'll see what is the introduction about the electrical part. And that is basically the electrical wiring. After then we'll see the method of electrical wiring, different methods. Then we'll see what are the different types of electrical wire systems. And then we'll see a small electronic components. And at the last, we'll just have a small quiz as we are having every time. So the very first, we will start with first the electrical introduction. So in that, the first is electrical wiring. So before this coming, we'll just go with the, what is an electrical introduction. So as I talked about electrical wiring as well. So what is an electrical wiring basically? So electrical wiring, it is basically the process of connecting the cables and the components where we will be dealing with the components like a fuse, like a switch, like the what you talk about socket, like fan, etc. to connection with the main distribution system, and where the distribution system is having a continuous supply. So that is something which is said to be an electrical wire. So what is it? So it is just a connecting cable between the connecting wires as well as the cables and the electrical components from the main power supply. Okay. After this, what we have seen was next is we are having the electrical diagram. So electrical diagram is basically a diagram which is actually showing you the interrelation, or you can say the relation between the electrical components as well as its relative positioning. So if I'm talking about the components, so the components and its relative positioning is defined by some lines in the same way we do it in the EGD. So with the help of a lines, with the help of some symbols and some number of combinations what we consider. So that all comes under the electrical diagrams. After that, next is your impedance diagram. So impedance diagram is the diagram which is equivalent to the power system, or you can say the whole circuit of a power system, where we are having a various components of the power system, which is approximately the trying to simplify the electronic circuits. So our which is just explaining that the circuit is the complicated circuits are equivalent to the impedance diagram. So that is something what we are having for the impedance diagram. Next. Next, we'll see the method of electrical wiring system. So in the method of electrical wiring system, we are having a different types of. The first is joint box or T or a jointing system. So let's have a look at how it looks like. So this is the actual positioning of the jointing system, or we can say the joint box or the T or a jointing system. Now, basically, this method of wiring is the connection where these appliances are being made through the joint. So you can see here, this is a particular switch, and here it is a lamp which is being connected by this as well as this part. Similarly, there is a switch once again which is having a lamp which is connected via this to this one. So this line, this line is a mean distribution line where the main line which is coming from outside, and that main distribution having one connection with the particular switch, similarly for the next, and via that switch the devices are being connected. The devices are being connected in the neutral line. You can see here that it is being connected to a neutral line. So that is something what we are having for the joint box or de-jointing system. So in detail, if I'll say that this particular method of wiring doesn't consume too much of cable size, and in that case, it becomes cheaper. And if I'm talking about the money kind of relation, then you can save it by just simply buying the cables and using the joints systems, or you can say the you can use it in buying joint boxes. Okay? So it is actually the temporary installation, and it relatively it is cheap. So the second method, what we will see compared to that, it will be relatively cheaper. Now coming to the second method, which is your loop system. So loop in or looping system. Loop in or looping system. In this loop in or looping system, basically the wiring is universally used in wirings. So you can see here that this is a single wire which is not being connected to this particular switches or the devices or neutral wire. So it is directly connected. But in the case of a loop-in, you can see the now you can see the diagram where it is being connected to the switch. Okay, you can connect it. The connection you can see it with the switch. So in this case, the connection is required at a light or a switch, and the feed conductor is looped in. Okay, so here you can see that the feed conductor is being looped in. Okay, so यहाँ पे ये looping किया है, at the same time यहाँ पे looping किया है. So the feed conductor is basically the looping where the you can see that it can be directly come in contact with the switches, and lights are being faded and it is being carried out around the circuits in a series of loops. So you can, one more thing you can understand, that in this case, in this particular looping or looping system, the line or the phase should never be looped from a light or a fan. So basically directly we can't do it. Directly we can't connect it with the devices, because what will happen that a huge amount of current can come and it can just burst the device. So that is why we don't connect it in the case of a loop-in or a looping system directly to the main system. So that is something which is loop-in or looping system. It has certain advantages and disadvantages. We'll see it later. Chalo. Okay, so let's discuss something about the advantages and disadvantages of these two systems. So if I'm talking about a loop-in system, so in the loop-in system, we are having the advantages as in it doesn't require the joint boxes, as you can see it in the case of this, that the joint boxes consist of some amount. So there is no joint boxes in the case of a loop-in system, and which help us to save the money to buy the joint boxes. But in the case of a looping system, this everything this all the whole system is not beneath the floors, or you can say in the roof surface. So it is all in the opened way. So here in loop in system, no joints is considered beneath the floors. Similarly, in the case of this, as it is not beneath the floor, so we can consider it like easy, can be fault finding, can be identified, and for that particular things, we are not supposed to break anything. Like in the sense, if in the case of a concealed, what we do it, is, if you find any problem, then we are supposed to break it, and then we have to take it out, and then we have to replace it. But in the case of a loop in or a loop out or looping system, you are not supposed to break anything. It has an easy access. Now coming to this disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages? So in the case of a disadvantages, what happens that the loop in the looping system, we are it is very difficult to hold this holders, whatever you are having in the form of a switch. So it is little difficult in the case of the looping system, where the switch and the lamp holders are usually finding difficult for just holding it. Similarly, in this case, the length of the wires which are being used is very huge. And as you know that you might have studied in your lower class that resistance is equals to rho v by L. So if the more the less resistance will be. So this sorry, the specific resistivity will be more, and in that case, it will be difficult for getting the output whatever we needed. So there will be a voltage drop in the case, and similarly, the losses of the wire will also be considered. Now, wait. So that was something what we were talking about, the different types of method of electrical wiring system. Now coming to next is your different electrical wiring systems. So earlier we have seen the methods, and now we are seeing a different types. So different types we are seeing as in a cleat wiring. Okay, noise is your cleat wiring. Similarly, you can see wooden casing and a capping wiring. After then, you can see this CTC, sorry, CTS or TRS or the PVC sheath wiring. In the case next is your lead sheathed wiring, which is metal sheeted wiring. Similarly, conduit wiring, and the special types are there, which is surface or open conduit type. And the next is your recess or concealed or